And we are live. Welcome, everyone. Today's topic is going to be an interesting one, or at least I think it's going to be an interesting one, and I hope it will, but who will know? We're going to talk about nationalism. Is nationalism a good thing or a bad thing? And more to the point, why? Now, what brought up this latest version of a nice hangout to me was the fact that Trump called himself a nationalist, and now the media is all falling over Trump because he's a nationalist. But to me, that doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're the leader of a country, don't you want to be a nationalist? So today with me, I've got John, who is still masticating, and Alicia, who is quietly smiling on the other side, and Real Raven, but he's not really here because his microphone isn't working. He is chatting to me in Google Hangout thingy, which gives me an annoying ping every second, so I'm going to have to turn that off. So, but yeah, okay, nationalism. Is nationalism a good thing or a bad thing? And yes, use this chat. Thank you, Real Raven. Hi there, Fathernut. Alicia, what do you think? Nationalism, good, bad, why, what?
I think nationalism is one of the most foundational things of keeping any people safe. And if your president denies being a nationalist, then he cannot protect your country from invaders. Thus, they should be booted out. It's all about protecting the home. That would be like saying it's bad to be a family person because you believe in the future and protecting it. It doesn't make sense at all that they say it's a bad thing outside of the context of they blame Hitler and associate it with Hitler. That's the only nationalism that I think people see nowadays because education sucks.
Well, that might be true. Hi there, Rin. And I find it funny because
hello, Modwain.
one of the people explaining nationalism I found not too long ago was like, yeah, but nationalism didn't exist before the First World War, and it only started during the First World War. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what nationalism is, because the French already had nationalism way before the First World War. Napoleon thrived on nationalism. And in all fairness, it was a reinvention of nationalism because older societies had nationalism too. For example, the Roman Empire had nationalism. Certain Viking cultures had nationalism. So, to me, and feel free to tell me if you agree or if you think I'm wrong, but to me, nationalism is nothing else than a way to define in-group, out-group.
I agree with you, Modwain. Nationalism is actually rather like normal, like you see it across cultures. I mean, it's kind of like when you look at China, when you look at Japan, it makes a lot of sense to want to protect your nation, protect your people, want to just, how do I put it? I don't know. I don't have the right words at the moment, but it's like it's natural to want to have borders, and there's nothing xenophobic about it. It's how things have been going on for years, centuries.
I think it just comes down to the fact that the two competing factions right now is globalism, and the only thing that can stop globalism is nationalism, right? And so all of the progress they're making towards a one world government is stymied when any of the nation states decide to say, hey, no, this isn't right for us. And
you're breaking up, Alicia. Are you still there?
Actually, I want to add on to what Alicia said, because I've heard an idea from Sticks Hexenhammer And he says that, I think it was Dick Sextonhammer that said that globalism is a way to have a, what's it, imperialism, you know, but without it's looking so bad. Like before, we've all spoken, people have spoken out against imperialism and whatnot, but he says that globalism is like a way to still have it, where it's kind of like, if you go and try to take somebody's land, it would just be seen as an internal conflict. However, if you did the exact same thing, like if there were defined countries, it would be seen as an act of war.
But I mean, yeah, if you take something from another country, then yeah, obviously it's going to. To me, it makes sense that that's an act of war.
Yeah, but if you go for globalism, it wouldn't be seen as an act of war. It will just be seen as an internal conflict. That's what he was saying.
Yeah,
I think it was Sticks. I'm not sure. It could have been V, but I think it was Sticks.
Well, but it makes sense. I mean, if you're a globalist, you don't believe in nationalities, because nationalities mean nothing for a globalist. But the thing is, and it is an in-group, out-group preference. And I mean, I've got my house. I live in a city. I want to feel safe within my city. So I like my city to be based on people of my culture, not ethnicity. Sorry, people, keep in mind, not ethnicity, but culture. And even though most of the people in my neighborhood are of the same culture, if not all, I still close my door. So the smallest group in a society is a household. Then you have family, then you have clubs, cities, etc., etc., etc. And nationality is basically the largest in-group, because the world is built up in in-groups, out-groups. But if you look at globalists seem to think that there is no in-group. I mean, the world is for everyone. And at the same time, they protect that direct area far more. They're more difficult to approach than most nationalists are. I wonder why that is. Anyone share your thoughts?
Well, I think it involves brainwashing the populace. You know, like I do think that to a certain extent, you know, people have been brainwashed to this because they don't seem to know history. Because, I mean, not that long ago, the Irish fought a war for their independence against England. And not only that, but I mean, there was, I think, the Finnish, and
actually, that isn't strictly true.
What?
It isn't strictly true that the Irish fought a war. It was more complicated than that.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, I mean, it's like the Americas fought a war. There was an actual war. There were armies. There was, you know, battles.
Mm-hmm.
The IRA was a
terrorist organization,
or guerrillas, or you know, it was singular acts of violence. And in the Easter Uprising of 1916, it was the typical British elite overreaction of shooting of unarmed civilians that turned the Irish population against Britain. And before that, the Irish were not en masse against being with Britain.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and the other thing is so what happened was they partitioned Ireland because the Northern Irish threatened a rebellion if the whole of Ireland was given independence, and they were influential in the Army Officer Corps, which obviously was still, you know, just out of the First World War. Mm-hmm. And thus the war in Ireland was between groups of the Irish, it wasn't against the English or the British. Further, when the British left Ireland, and then in the 1960s, the Protestant majority in Northern Ireland were discriminating against the Catholic minority, the ones who wanted to be part of the Greater Ireland, and there was friction. And when the British troops went into Ireland in 1968, the nationalist population welcomed them as protectors. But it was quickly turned about when, in typical British government fashion, it chose to be very heavy-handed, leading to the 1972 Bloody Sunday incident.
Yeah, which basically gave rise to a whole new
movement. But there were many times when it was not said that the Irish were against the British.
Yeah, I remember that.
Much more complicated, and there were always people, you know, you're basically talking about two populations, just like Palestine and Israel. It's such a parallel. You've got two peoples wanting the same land, and they want to do different things with that land.
Yeah, the thing is, and to bring it, welcome back, Alicia. I don't know what you did, but you did it. If I get another copyright strike, I'm blaming you, just so you know.
I didn't do anything. It was not my fault.
I was kidding.
I'm so sorry.
I was kidding.
What happened? My internet just everything cut out. Like everything was just gone. Everything.
Wow,
disappeared.
You really have some subversive messages then, that they cut you off completely.
They did. I was like, what in the goodness? And then all of a sudden I hear this buzzing and then everything just wonderful. Great. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where are we at?
That's okay. We're still talking about, well, currently we're talking about the Irish uprising. No, uprising is too big a word. The IRA and people wanting independence again. And feel free to jump in, John.
No, well, you see the thing again. The whole Irish situation is very complicated because it started in the late 18th century, and a lot of the people who led the push for Irish independence were Protestants, people like Parnell. And it wasn't about Catholicism; it was purely about nationalism, about Irish ruling their own country. Now, ironically, Ireland was not part of the United Kingdom until 1802. Ireland was kind of governed from England, so to speak, as a colony, but it wasn't actually a part of the legally until 1802.
Okay.
So the move for Irish independence actually started before Ireland was part of the country.
I see, and I told John that before. I wasn't aware. I thought like Ireland was like Ireland like up until recently. I didn't know they joined hands with England.
Yeah, I triggered because I work for an Irish company, and I triggered this Irishman because I told him that the British history was Ireland's history in the 19th century.
It's so weird because it just doesn't. They seem like two different people. I still understand why Ireland is part of you guys. Like, it doesn't make sense to my mind. It would be like if Canada suddenly was USA. Just
well,
doesn't make
what
sense.
happened is when the Normans invaded England, they also went to Ireland. So it wasn't the English, it was the Normans. But they were ironically called the Anglo-Irish, even though they were Normans and therefore not Anglo.
Where are the Normans from?
Well, Normandy, France.
France.
But they are the Norman actually means Norsemen, and so they were Vikings who moved into northern France, became a very powerful military force, conquered England, Ireland, Sicily, and other. They were a very militaristic caste, the Normans.
That's so weird. I don't understand. You guys have such a long history. It's so weird. It seems like you guys should have already merged by now.
But that's the thing, because countries didn't have... I mean, no. Back to the beginning. The Roman Empire was one of the first empires in Europe. There were ones before that one. But it was one of the first empires that actually wanted to have their civilians feel Roman. So you could be Germanic, but you would still be a Roman citizen. The same rights would apply, the same laws would apply. You would be a citizen. Now, when the Roman Empire collapsed, well, that's not true. When the Western Roman Empire collapsed in 300, it became a mess. And the Germanic tribes basically took over. Not all of them. It was mostly, what was his name? Merovech taking over France, and his grandchildren taking over bigger parts of Europe. France, parts of Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, what we now call Germany, Austria, Switzerland, not really Yugoslavia, just on the edge there. But yeah, a large part of what Europe became under the control of the Franks. But in that time, when a king died, it was normal that he would divide his lands on his children. And this is how the three empires in Central Europe started. The French, the German, and the Holy Roman Empire, which was Austria and Swiss. I'm paraphrasing here. I mean, it's not precisely like that. But all these empires came from the same family. But for some reason, there was never a feeling of mutual togetherness, because after the death of the Roman Empire in Europe, people stopped feeling part of a bigger in-group, so to speak. They started thinking of themselves in small tribal ideas again. And part of this tribe, and okay, there is a biological link from this tribe to that tribe, but I'm not part of that tribe. They are not part of me. So in Europe, they cultivated an atmosphere of division, where nationalism was actually first used to create an atmosphere of inclusion, because this is what a lot of people seem to constantly misunderstand. Nationalism isn't meant to divide people, it's meant to include people. Now, if we look, for example, at the Byzantine Empire, which is basically the Roman Empire that didn't get destroyed when they split, you could be from whatever ethnicity you wanted to be and still be a full-fledged nationalist member of the Byzantine Empire. You would be a civilian, just like you would have been in the Roman Empire. But we don't know that much about the Byzantine Empire, so it's got romanticized, but we've forgotten the reality about it. And if we look in Europe, suddenly nationalism didn't exist for the longest time. Now, when did nationalism start to re-emerge? Actually, just before the Napoleonic era in France, where the country was starting to have, I mean, they revolted against the how do you call it, the nobility, and they wanted to have France once again be liberté, égalité, fraternité. It's a country as equals for each other. This is kind of funny, because even now in France, they still feel that the idea of being a national, being France, is 100% important, but being ethnical is 100% frowned upon. Because you can be a black French person, you can be an African French person, you can be... How do you mean the Roman Empire was pan-nationalistic? I'm curious, John.
Well, because it wasn't based on your nationality. You could be from anywhere. You were a Roman citizen.
You know, once your country was overtaken by Rome, you would be a Roman citizen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So people still had their identity. People still knew they came from Britannia or they came from Syria, but they were Romans, and therefore being a Roman was pan-nationalist. It wasn't tied to your nationality.
No, actually, your nationality would become Roman because, well, you're part of this country.
Okay, so we're talking semantics again.
We're talking semantics, yeah.
But I was trying to. I mean, all the Germanic hordes who invaded Italy at the end wanted to become Romans. They didn't hate Rome and want to bring it down. They just wanted to take it over and be part of it.
Well, and then they wanted to try and make Rome become them, which obviously never worked. This is funny enough what we're seeing in America now. We see the caravan of people going to America, not because they want to overtake or overthrow America, but they want to partake. But they don't want to partake in a legal manner, but they still want to partake. Does that make sense, or everyone fell silent again?
Well, it makes sense. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
No. Take this on.
No, Sean, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, to my mind, the closest analogy would be the EU, where they're wanting to make people citizens of the EU. That would be what I would call pan-nationalism.
Okay, fair enough.
And therefore, and that's why I compare Rome to.
Yeah, I understand why you would make that. I'm not quite sure if I agree, because the Roman Empire. No, let me rephrase that. From what we know from history, a member of the Roman Empire, a citizen of the Roman Empire, had more influence in Roman politics than a member of the European Empire has.
Yeah, but you're not looking at the concept now. You're looking at specific implementation of it.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm just about the concept of Europeanism, if you like. The EU project is to unite people who are distinct. The whole 19th century was defined by what people might not be aware of. In the 19th century, a large part of Europe was part of what was called the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Yeah.
Ruled from Vienna and Prague.
Yeah.
And it included those countries, obviously, but all the Bulgaria, Romania, all the Slavic countries, Slovakia, and so forth. The nationalism of the 19th century was about the parts of these empires coming to identify as their own parts, as their own country. Germany didn't form as a country until 1870.
Yeah.
Italy, likewise, not until I can't tell you the exact date of Italy, but
it was later.
Something similar, somewhere in the second half of the 19th century. So we tend to think of Italy, but Italy wasn't a country.
No, but that's what I meant. That's why modern nationalism, got reinvented or restarted in France, and it created a stronger sense.
But France was probably just a manifestation of what was happening rather than a cause.
Yeah.
But the point is now we have the EU, and the EU is trying to reconstruct the Austro-Hungarian Empire on a slightly larger scale So it's trying to reverse the nationalism of the 19th century.
Mm-hmm. But somehow, somewhere, nationalism has been, well, it's not given a bad rap, but it's now only seen as a negative.
And yeah, they're trying to make a connection between nationalism and, you know, being a neo-Nazi, being a national socialist.
And
it would be a lot like, you know, Adolf Hitler was a nationalist.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, was Adolf Hitler a nationalist? Yeah, most likely he was.
Well, again, it depends how you define it, because he was a bloody Austrian who became Chancellor of Germany.
That's the point. I mean, he was an Austrian, so how nationalistic could he have been? But he was nationalistic because he did care about Germany.
No, he was an ethnicist.
And that's the problem. He wasn't
a nationalist. He was an ethnicist.
He was a nationalist.
He cared about the German people, wherever they may be, and that included Austria, Germany, the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia, Western Poland.
No, but that's
Poland.
That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, he was a nationalist. He was also an ethnical nationalist. Those two things are not the same. You can be a nationalist and not care about ethnicity.
And this is my point. But the people who are saying, oh, but Hitler was an nationalist, are missing the point. He was an ethnicist. That was what was toxic about his beliefs, not his nationalism.
No, and that's the point. But now somehow everyone seems to think that nationalism means ethno-nationalism.
Yeah, people are making the connection between nationalism and ethno-nationalism. I think it's because of the American educational system.
I also think that identity politics is playing into this as well. Had we not started doing identity politics, I don't think that people would be jumping on board so quickly. But for sure, the American education system is completely broken, and it's spilling out everywhere else. And it's quite toxic, really, because a lot of your toxic education does come out of America now. And it's spread to Australia, some parts of Ireland, some places in Canada, and South Africa is having to use it. And so just expect it to get worse, because if you don't fix the school system now, it's all over. It's all over. Yeah. You're going to see a wave of something that I don't think anyone could even predict. You know, so many kids are isolated now. I think that
they drug anyone they want to if they present any kind of a challenge.
Well, exactly. And then you have basically what happens is there was this 8-year-old or 9-year-old girl just committed suicide. And in America, what we do is nobody actually reads the entire article. I don't know if that's American, but it, you know. So if you actually read the article, it said it was from bullying at school. And it wasn't. The parents were saying that they had just barely put her on all these different medications and she started acting really weird. And nobody wants to address the fact that we have kids 8, 9, 10 killing themselves. That's unheard of. That's not right. That's wrong.
Well, yeah, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not unheard of, but we see it happening more and more and more.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and yeah, this is. I might not be correct in assuming to speak from authority, but considering my work, I do have a little bit of a view in this. We see problems with the youth. We have seen for a very long time, but it becomes worse and worse and worse. We see it more and more and more. And our youth has an identity problem.
Oh, exactly. Basically, they can't have it. Think about, so me and Rin, we're both Americans, right? I would say that we're proud to be Americans. Yeah. But now they're even denying us that. So we can't be an American because that's evil. We can't I can't be white. You can't be a girl, you can't be a boy, you can't be straight, you can't be this, you can't be that, you can't be a Christian, you can't be this. Everybody has to, they're pushing individualism so much that nobody has an identity left. But at the same time, they're forcing people that don't identify a certain way to be put into a box. Like my daughter, half Native American, right? She's getting in fights online all the time because she happens to love Thanksgiving, and then they attack her because she looks white, and she has to sit there and defend not only the white portion in her, but the Native American portion in her, and say, you don't even understand how important tomorrow is. And there's nothing. We're literally killing everybody by denying them the ability to have some kind of group identity.
Yeah, it's cultural Marxism, isn't it? It's destroying us via our identities, and we just have to stand up and say, no, actually, I'm quite happy to be an evil white male, because that's what I do. No, I mean, it's like if they're going to brand me bad for what I am, these immutable characteristics, I'm going to turn around and say, yeah, and I'm proud of that. Why wouldn't I be? Why would anyone not be proud of what they are?
But I still don't. I mean, it's amazing that the globalists and the cultural Marxists, the postmodernists, they are basically digging their own graves, and the only reason that anyone gives credence to them is because they control the media, they control schooling. But they are losing that control. I mean, if anything, YouTube has proven that. Not the company YouTube, but the phenomena YouTube. Because they've been trying to control what people say for the longest time. And suddenly YouTube has become huge.
Yeah.
Because, and they try to stop that. So now people leaving YouTube to go to BitChute and Cocoscope and Mind and Gab. Yeah. So they're trying to close every hole. And PayPal is now trying to, or Patreon is now trying to block people, so we get Patreon. They're trying to box every non-global message out, and they're losing this battle.
They are losing, and what's sad is that an entire generation of kids are going to be the ones harmed by it. And what I feel really bad about is that I'm starting to see the younger kids now, they're using certain markers to stay away from particular kids because they're afraid of those kids, because those kids are the ones that are living by this crazy leftist ideology. And the younger kids, even if they agree with a lot of the left ideology, they have to stay away from it because they see that they eat their own. Yeah. And they're terrified. They're terrified. Just like with the feminists created this monster. Yeah. And that I told my husband, it's off topic, but I told him the other day, I'm not even going to be speaking about transgender rights or anything anymore, because the feminists are the ones that caused this. They're the ones that are going to allow poor little girls to miss out on a generation of little girls missing out on playing sports and being proud to be a girl. They're the ones that did it. Why should I even speak out anymore? They've made this bed, let them lie in it and let them marinate in the shit world that they created.
But that's the whole thing. If we look at society now, in case of inclusivity, Boy Scouts have to accept girls into their ranks because inclusivity.
No. That's a slight misreading of it.
Is it?
Yes, they chose to open it because their membership was dwindling and they wanted a way to retain their size.
The membership of the Girl Scouts was dwindling too, but
the Girl Scouts is more ideological, and they don't want boys in because they're ideological. Whereas the Boy Scouts were like, apparently, this is I can only go by what I've heard because I don't know, is the Boy Scouts weren't doing it for ideological reasons. They were not being made to do it.
What I heard, but I think Alicia might know more about this, considering the background of the Boy Scouts. But what I got told was that the Boy Scouts basically got pushed into accepting females.
Well, they got It actually, they weren't pushed into the female thing, but what they were pushed into was to allow gays in. So they were forced to allow the gays in. And then with that pressure on top of it, a lot of people, okay, so the Mormon church actually keeps the Boy Scouts going, biggest members. And now the Mormons are going to be pulling out from the Boy Scouts because they were gay men in. They were fine with that. But the jamborees nationwide, where they go in nationwide, they had already allowed girls in. That was from over in Europe, you guys, and so the American Boy Scouts, because we're more Protestant. I know nobody likes to think that we're a little bit more uptight, but we are. They were passing out condoms at the Boy Scout breeds, and so it actually, well, it's smart. They're kids, but all right. They shouldn't be having sex.
They shouldn't, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
I know, but but that is promoting it. There's this strange lie, but anyway, it doesn't matter because so the Girl Scouts are suing the Boy Scouts now.
I'll be right back, but you continue. I'll be right back.
Okay, so now the Girl Scouts are suing the Boy Scouts because the Girl Scouts are losing membership because the Girl Scouts suck. They what do? They sell cookies.
Yeah.
Do they do anything fun anymore? They don't. It's become
we don't even call them
business.
Girl Scouts in this country. They're called Girl Guides.
Why?
Because that's what they were called. It's only America that decided to call them both Scouts.
Oh.
Like Canada, Australia, other countries, they're guides. They're not Girl
Guides?
Scouts. Yeah.
That's weird.
The two organizations are Brownies for the little girls and the Guides for the bigger girls. So there's no conflation of the two, the boys and the girls, because they actually have different identities right down to their names most places.
Wow. We should have done that because I feel sorry. Like it's like nobody, what they're doing is you're seeing a merger of three different types of globalists right now though. And I think that's why the world is inflamed. So you have the open society globalists, but then you have the socialist globalists, and then you have the ideologue global, even though all of them are ideologues, but I think they're infighting and it's just creating this huge backlash. But I mean, we're all kind of to blame though. I think as a society, we have to all state at some point, we're all to blame because we've allowed for this. We've allowed for us to be in a place where our societies are crumbling and feminism is turning it up a notch. Like I just found out, so in South Korea, the feminists. Sorry.
I find it a little difficult because one of the problems is so we live in countries with millions of people, and by design in my country, we're not supposed to have any influence. It was actually designed in when they extended the franchise throughout the 19th century. It was designed in that we not have any influence. They were scared out of their wits that if they extended the franchise, people would vote in the wrong sort to run the country, and then eventually they realised, oh, actually, we don't have to worry about that. We can still control who gets to run the country. So we're not supposed to have influence, and therefore. Sorry.
No. I get everything that you're saying, John. But what I'm talking about is that we never do anything to change anything. At least, so the Bolsheviks came in and they slaughtered like millions of people and they changed something. So I just don't know. Like obviously I'm like in a dark place right now, and I probably, I'm being a little bit negative, but what is going to change anything at this point in time? What can we do?
It changed the culture. So, for instance, the significant cultural event of my life was punk because it changed the culture. Punk itself was tiny, but it was a fundamental shift in attitudes, and it was a you don't have to feel helpless just because you're poor and working class. You can just go out and do something. You don't need a record label. You do your own. You don't need to buy clothes. You make your own. It was a totally DIY attitude. And you could say it's the British equivalent of the American attitude of you can do it if you want to. And it's no good trying to tell half the rest of your population that you want to do this radically different thing, because that's never going to happen. What you do is you start a different way of doing things, and then if you succeed, that grows and influences the culture, and then the politicians will react to that change in the culture.
So PewDiePie is going to save us all?
It could be. It could be, but but those are the strange places that influences come from.
But that's the thing. Culture has a huge impact on societies, and we like to think that societies shape culture, but it is, how do you call it, interactive. So if you look at, for example, indeed what punk did to our society. But at the same time, if you look at what the Frankfurt School of Thought did to our society, the latter one was accidental. The first one was accidental. The latter one was actually designed. And we don't really understand how cultures move. So we don't really know how we can influence cultures. We can do it on a short base.
Can I just say, right, you've said there's a difference between the way punk did it and the Frankfurt School did it. The reason is because the people in the Frankfurt School are academics and they do know how cultures work.
No, that's the thing. They don't. They only know short-term movements. We don't know how, for a long term, we can influence it. Okay, a long term is not 50 or 100 years. A long term is 1,000 years.
Yeah, but that's a meaningless.
Well, what about, so here's my question then. So what I like to do is I do like to talk to the younger people, and what's coming up around the bend is going to be something really dark and dystopian.
Mm-hmm.
And do they even have the strength to weather the storm? I feel like
no.
I'm actually frightened for Generation Z, younger, anyone under 15 right now. I am terrified for them.
The thing is, well, we've all seen the image. Good time creates weak men create bad time create strong men create good time. We've all seen it. There are millions of versions out there. We know who we are, but we cannot tell who our children are, because they are still going through their formative years, and that will not end till well in their when they're well beyond age. So if we look at, I have more of a problem with saying our 18, 20, 25 years old will manage, but I won't be able to say that our 10 years old won't be able to manage, because they are still going through their formative years. Who knows how they're going? I mean, the left likes to think that the youth is in their back, but we see a growth in conservative youth. We see an extreme growth in that.
It's so true. It's so true. But can I tell you why, though? It comes back to that isolation. A lot of them will be friends with they call it neopronoun people. Neopronoun people. They'll attempt to be, yeah, that's what they're calling them. They attempt to be friends with these people, and they try to be inclusive. And then they slowly get worn down by these people demanding all these different things. Yeah. And it looks as though the younger Generation Z are actually forming tribes. It's more of a tribal thing and less of a nation thing or a globalist thing. It's more of like online interactions are more real to them at this point, where they are forming tribes, and a lot of them are starting to keep track of certain people that they don't want to deal with because it's too high maintenance. They're too high maintenance, and it's just not worth it. And then they get kicked out of groups and things like that. So they're literally isolating the ones that are demanding for all these extra rights. They are slowly being cut out of the picture. And it has nothing to do with the kids being mean, because they're not being mean. It's just that they're overwhelmed by it.
But they are. And at the same time, because they are overwhelmed by it, they are growing up faster, so to speak. They're forced to deal with this. When we were young, we didn't have to deal with this. And I think that's why parents of our generation, on average, are failing. Because we didn't have to deal with it. Our society was pretty safe and pretty stable. But our youth, our kids, need to deal with this. And because they need to deal with it, they need to start recognizing certain things. Now, we as an adult, we can say, okay, we see this, we see that. But they actually live through it in a slightly different way than we do. Yep. As you said, they try to be friends with these people, and they can't even do that. And not because of lack of interest from our youth, but because of everything is an offense. So there is no way to deal with this.
Yeah, I mean, I severely disappointed my father, because I pointed out to him that there was an inherent problem. Okay, so my father became an adult just after the war. He did national service, but he was too young to actually serve during the Second World War. And he worked really hard, made lots of money. He was very working class when he was born. He did well. He became middle class. I'm middle class because he became middle class. And he wanted to give his children a much better life than he had known growing up, which he did. And I pointed out to him, the fundamental problem is we view life relatively. Yeah. I cannot appreciate how much better my childhood was than his because I never knew his childhood.
Yeah.
I could only assess my childhood against the other people around me. So the fact that his generation had improved society, made it wealthier, whatever, safer, doesn't provide any baseline for the next generation. And this is a fundamental problem. So that ironically, when you get people who grow up with an easy life, they are not capable of dealing with difficulty.
Yeah.
And the easier and better things get, the less capable people are dealing with difficulty. And the only thing that will shock them into actually coping with difficulty is to face it.
Yep. This is kind of why we always say at my work, I work with kids. I've mentioned this many a time before. A kid going through 2 years of psychiatric healthcare will be, at the end of those 2 years, will be more mature than his contemporary kids. But when they get into the help, they are more immature. They're mentally younger than their contemporary kids. So you need hardship to understand and learn what hardship is. And if you don't get hardship, you create it yourself, because we need boundaries. We need things to progress past. This is, for example, also, we're sidetracked a little bit because it's not about nationalism anymore. But this is, for example, also what Maustopia showed us. If life becomes too safe, it becomes unsustainable.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel you on that, because if you think about it, what the purpose of life is to live life and learn lessons. And if there's nothing to do, you probably would just get, I don't know, like have no purpose, no point, no reason for living. And then
you become complacent.
Well, it's not complacent, aimless.
Well, okay.
maybe depressed, like a weird kind of depression. Like, I don't know. It's so weird what's happening. It feels like something big has to happen to change things. But I think something big is something wicked this way comes for sure, for sure. You know, especially watching in the United States, the fires in California are crazy right now, out of control. And then you have what's the caravan coming up, and then you have judges in California blocking us from blocking them, and then you have even in Mexico they're protesting these people invading their country. I mean, even Mexico is like, come on, this is our country, you guys are coming in here.
Yeah.
And so it is a unique time, though. I couldn't ask to live in another time, though, because I feel honored to witness history unraveling, be able to see it firsthand, what it's like when an entire globe collapses in on itself. It'll be quite fascinating. Horrible, but fascinating nonetheless.
Well, the problem in my mind is that a lot of those pushing for change are doing so very myopically. And so they don't understand how what they're doing relates to other people pressing for their change myopically, and they're not compatible. And so you're going to get clashes of these fanatics all wanting their change.
Yeah, I wonder about that. So even if they were able to usher in, let's say somehow they were able to usher in communism in the United States, do you know how much infighting there would be? There's so many different anarchist groups, so many different communist groups, that it would be a second civil war. Like, even if you had a civil war, there would be a second civil war. It would just become madness because they all want different things. They really do. When you read their little manifestos and goals and crap like that, it's just like, what are you guys doing? What are you doing?
They can't even talk with each other.
Oh, they can't.
If you look at Antifa was started of two political socialist and communist parties in Germany combining their forces. And even in that combining of forces, one of the two said, yeah, but we're not really going to work with you.
Well, that's crazy.
You know the film Life of Brian?
Yeah, the
film Life of Brian, Monty Python.
It's the one that mocks Jesus, right?
It doesn't mock Jesus, it mocks believers.
Believers in Jesus.
Yeah, but it's not mocking Jesus, it's mocking the way people believe and follow. Okay, anyway. So within that, there are all these little splinter groups, which are the People's Front of Judea. And we're not the Judean People's Front splitters. That was based on British Trotskyism. It was a riff on British Trotskyism, because you've got these tiny little ineffective groups who are more interested in fighting each other and hating each other than they are uniting against an enemy. And that is the communist ideological mind in a nutshell, basically.
Yep. I mean, the thing is, if you want to be ideologically pure, then you're going to always fail, because define ideologically pure.
Yeah, you're going to end up with ideologies of one person with their own ideology.
And this is, for example, why the Antifa movement, everyone is a fascist according to them. Yeah, but fascism was another form of socialism. So they come from the same ideological background, so to speak. But they don't want to see that. Therefore, no, they are wrong. And Antifa, Bolshevism, has always been a globalist movement. This is why they hated fascism, and this is why they hated the Nazis. Not so much because they were ethno-nationalists, which fascism isn't, but the Nazis were, but because they are from the same religion, but of a different denomination.
Yeah. And if you look at the history, say, of Roman Catholicism before the Reformation, they were just as bad. You know, the killing of the, what were they called in the south of France? Oh, there was a particular group, and they were wiped out, murdered by the Roman establishment because they disagreed about the definition of the Trinity.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, are you insane? You're fighting over words.
But that's the thing. I mean, let's bring it back to nationalism, though, because this isn't interesting. But and yeah, Crusader Soul, Antifa are not only the fascists of today; they were the fascists of that day as well. But there were two different forms of fascists. You had the Italian fascists and you had the Bolshevik fascists. But let's bring it back to nationalism. And hi there, Anirtak. Anirtak, yeah.
Isn't he the Australian?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Toxic knows.
Toxic, do you know who Anirtak is?
Yes, she's my friend. She's Australian.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
Okay.
She helps fight against the comprehensive sexual education and the RRR. We found each other because somebody had sent me some information on the RRR, and I thought it was over the top. I was like, there's no way in hell they're going to teach kids that shit. So I went, I went and found the actual lessons, and I was shocked. I was like, holy shnikes. I couldn't believe it. And it's really hard for Australians to speak out against it because of hate speech laws. And so a lot of my work for a long time was putting out videos exposing the sexuality thing, the RRR. And I really need to put some stuff together on it because they still have the RRR. And it's just as bad, if not worse. It basically demonizes all white males. Every lesson is to tell them that they are evil, wicked, and they're worse. They're worse for the world than rich billionaires. I think they're going to have a wave of suicides there.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, fucking hell. You know what? Let's do that next week because let's go back to nationalism a little bit. But yeah, maybe we should do another topic on how to deal with our youth and basically how we are destroying our youth.
That would be a great topic. Yeah, let's go back to nationalism. I'm proud to be an American.
Shall we do that next week though?
I have no idea. It's the holiday season, so I have no idea.
Play that song I sent you, Alicia.
Uh-huh.
That song. You remember that song I sent you?
Which one?
I'm proud to be American.
Oh yes, I heard that. I thought it was weird as heck.
There was a band called the Tubes who in the 1970s did this great song called I'm Proud to be an American. So every time Alicia says I'm proud to be American, it brings that song to mind. So I sent it to you.
Okay, but Anirtak, if you ever feel that you want to join in the Hangout by actually participating, let us know. I am usually quite inviting.
Yes, very, very wise. Everybody should watch her channel and learn what's going on. It's sad, it's scary, but yeah, I think the first thing we do need to do is we need to bring back a national pride. How can we come together as peoples if we're not allowed to be proud of our heritage, our culture?
There is that. And what I find even more, I'm already subscribed to Anirtak apparently. Okay.
I'm not, so I will.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say something and then I interrupted myself. Fuck me. No, but the thing is, and this is what I don't understand. Nationalism is not about who you will and will not accept. It's just another way of in-group identification. And I mean, people themselves decide whether they are a nationalist, not whether they accept others as nationalists. So, for example, I'm willing to believe you, Alicia, when you say that you feel yourself a nationalist. I'm also willing to believe that if people around you are part of the culture you are in, and they adhere to the law and they work hard to maintain for their family and whatnot, even if their skin color isn't white, you will accept them.
Yeah, my daughter is half Chippewa, and I'm about to have a grandbaby that is going to be half, I guess it'll be half South Korean, a quarter Chippewa, and a quarter whatever the hell I am. American. I don't know who I told, maybe it was Real Raven. I said, you know what? I'm going to disavow my European heritage. My family lines have been here since the 1500s. So that's where it's going to be. I'm just American. I gave birth on American soil. That's it. That's what I am. That's my nationality.
Why not?
But that's the thing, though. I mean, not too long ago, I heard someone talk about how if your kid gets born in America, he's automatically American. But that's not really true. He can become automatically American if the family wants to partake in American culture, if they want to be American. Hence, uphold the law, uphold the culture, speak the language, earn your own keep, uphold the law. If those three things, but to me, anyone who does that is welcome. So,
it's true. We're the riffraff from Europe. So I think that's what it is that we went through.
Oh, no. The Australians are the riffraff from Europe. We sent
our
actual criminals. We sent our actual criminals to Australia.
Yeah, that's why Australia is cooler than all of us. We all know that. But no, we're. I think I think there's something special about wherever you live if you've been there long enough. That slowly develops, and it has everything to do with genetics and our environment and environmental changes. And I say it to people all the time. If you were to isolate northern Utah from a lot of other like low-level places in America, and no one was to breed with the outside world, eventually we could split the species and actually have a genuine new race, because our lungs would start being different, our ability to procreate with each other, but we all forget that. But I think at the core of it, without nationalism, I don't care. I feel like we lose something as humans if we don't have nationalism. To me, nationalism is like having a family. And without family, I feel like you're just blowing in the wind and there's nothing there. There's no identity. And I feel sad that I felt sad when I saw that French dude say that nationalism was bad.
Every now and again, Alicia, sorry.
No, I
know it's just every now and again a few of your words disappear and then we don't know what you said.
Sorry, I just feel bad for the French people right now. Their country is going to be gone, and the world will be lost without the Frenchies.
But here's the thing, you see. So I mean, we're close behind, but a country has to sort themselves out. Ultimately, it's like anything else. If you have a problem, you've got to admit it and face it yourself. No one can do it for you.
Yeah, I think that's true. Look, America had to come to terms with what we did to the Native Americans. And I'm not talking about the fighting. I'm talking about them taking children from Native American people and putting them in schools. But then I found out we did that to everybody that was poor, not just the Native Americans, but the black people and then also poor white people.
Yeah, because it's about class.
Yeah, it really was.
The whole race argument in America obscures the fact that it's about class.
It really is. It's like you don't want it. It's like I was telling some ethno people, July 4th is a big holiday, especially in Layton, because we have the big parade and the big party. If anyone's seen my vlogs, you know it's really big. So I have Mexican. I have actually a lot of different neighbors, you know, but a Mexican family, right? So they were proudly displaying 2 flags. They were playing country music. They were enjoying it. They were being Americans, and I go, that's what's important to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I want, if you're an American, be a goddamn American, not some white kid walking down the street saying America sucks and burning the flag. Then leave. Stop creating division and leave. Allow us to be Americans. What's wrong with allowing people to be Americans? I love the idea of Australian people. They are cool to me. I love the idea of British people because they sound smarter and they're so snotty.
It's all an illusion.
And I love the idea of Amsterdam and Holland, of it being like the most free area in the world where people could be themselves. And I love Germany because Germany creates some smart motherfuckers. It seems to me that Germany creates really smart people and really evil people too. I don't know what's in the water, Germany, but something's going on there. And I don't want to lose that. Just like I love Russians. I think Russians are fantastic. They are so loud. I thought I was loud. I went to a convention with Russians. They all get up in your grill and stuff. It's great. It's great. And what's wrong with that? It's great. I like having these different things. It makes it beautiful. But it's not.
Isn't that the whole thing about globalists and everyone has to be the same? This is why the NPC meme was such a fucking success.
Yeah.
Because everyone has to be this grayed out blur of nothingness, really.
Oh, anti-identity.
Axel,
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, just had to walk down. I left the bed so I could partake a little bit since you mentioned the Germans. So going to
don't mention the war.
As a child.
No,
the Germans.
Yeah, don't mention the war.
Because
we went to Italy to
everything since.
We would drive down south to eat Italian food and talk Italian, you know, and you know.
And the North Italians,
Italian people in Italy, you know. I don't know if it's still like that, but that's what it was like 25 years ago.
No,
well, it's like think about Japan. Like I loved looking at Japan culture. I know it was really patriarchy and everything before they got involved with America, but I thought there was something special, and I think that they should be allowed to hold on to their culture because there's something lovely and beautiful about it. And
yeah.
It's like the globalists want to make everybody just have a green lawn and no flowers are allowed anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're not allowed to mow your lawn on a Sunday.
Really? Why? Yeah. Why?
Because
Sunday.
It's Sunday. You can't disrupt the peace.
Really?
Yeah.
I live in Utah. Like the most, it's not even that. We can't sell cars on Sunday.
Well, but we do anything on Sunday.
We can't buy alcohol on Sunday. Well, you can buy beer. You can buy beer, but that's because beer is watered down here. But that's really weird. So you can't work. So they're enforcing their religious ideology on you?
No. It's the noise. You're not allowed to mow your lawn.
Yeah.
It's just the noise. What if you have what if you have like one of the old push ones that doesn't make noise?
You probably could get away with it.
Now, don't say that, because I think I heard there are still places where you where certain people aren't allowed to play football on the
Really?
street. Yeah. I have to look that one up. That was pretty funny.
Oh,
as well.
speaking of football,
English.
speaking of football, no, I've got to interject this. Some women got into trouble in Parliament today because the women played football in the chamber of the House.
Oh, I heard about that. But I tell you something, forbidding football
Good for them.
on a Sunday in Germany would not fly, I can tell you that much. It's national sport.
Yes. And
That
a
would
lot
be
of the
blasphemy.
matches are played on Sunday.
That'd be blasphemy.
Yeah, it's
Well,
blasphemy.
What about people that only have Sunday off? How are they supposed to mow their lawn?
Exactly.
Are they forced to pay someone to do it?
Good question.
It's ludicrous
Like, do you guys,
because, you know,
do you get fined and shit for not doing, like, so in Layton, they have this draconian rule where if your tree, so if you have a tree in your front yard and
Mhm.
a branch has to be at least 14 feet above the sidewalk and at least 20 feet above the road. And if it's not, the city can seize your property.
Oh my giddy aunt.
really.
No, I got a
They don't
warning
just
once
cut it
because I
off, no?
had I got a ticket where they said I had 24 hours or they would take my house. And so I went outside in my pajamas. I looked like
Oh,
crap.
no.
And I cut it into the ugliest eyesore. And I go, well, it looks like shit. But fuck the city. They can just that's what I think that's where we're at in society though, is that our government abuses us so much that maybe we're all kind of suffering from some kind of weird Stockholm syndrome.
Well,
And
yeah.
You know what? I
People
think
keep
that
asking for more.
cities are really the root. I really think that cities are probably the because
Oh, sorry, Axel, you're breaking up a little.
hypersensitive people. Oh, my neighbor is too loud. He's offending me. You don't have this shit on the country, you know, where people aren't like shed.
But sometimes
Instead of
your neighbours
shit,
are too loud, and they do need complaining about. This is the problem. It's how you decide where the border is.
No, you see that wrong.
no, that's why
You're
I want
never
to
too loud.
move.
Your nerves are too bad.
Yeah, no.
If you're having a party at 3 a.m. during the week, you're too loud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but at the
Well,
same time, we live in a 24-hour society now, and you have people that work at night.
No,
So
I know,
doing-
but
Exactly.
you know what you know what I mean. It's like there are.
No, it's just weird because it is true. It's about trying to live together. So I'm to a point where
it's about that. It's about trying to live together, you know, to take some Rücksicht to take care of each other. That's the thing. I mean, I couldn't understand when I was living in a rented place back in Germany, and my wife was doing nursing night shift, and they'd give out about me playing the piano after 6, but yet they'd get up at 8 in the morning and play cards loudly on the tables outside, you know, while my wife was trying to sleep after night shift. You don't understand that, you know. It's like, oh yeah, but you know, normal people have curtains and they have cars and they start at work tonight. They start to work at 9 and they finish at 5. You know, it's and they don't listen to live piano music or something. You know, it's the norms. You know, and these people are just lucky enough to have the norms on their sides rather than kind of arranging themselves with their neighbors. That's my take on it anyway.
true. Trying to strike a balance, and we're now going the opposite direction. Like I'm just grateful that I'm not one of the crazy people pushing this crap. I'm just grateful I'm not a feminist or an SJW, because I can't imagine. They have to have, you would think they'd end up with like heart attacks or strokes or something.
There's
I wonder if they're ever happy.
Not happy. So John and I said the same thing.
Yeah, you just wonder if they're ever happy, if they actually know what being cheerful is.
But they do. They look like they're happy. Do you remember the dude that roundhouse kicked that lady? The video that went viral. he looked genuinely happy in that
No, he
moment.
looks smug. That's
He
not
looks
quite the same
smug.
thing.
How
But
is
did
that
it,
genuinely happy? He looks
maybe I
smug
don't. Okay,
and
maybe I don't know what
sarcastic.
happy looks.
No, we
No, I
don't
think
mean happy as in just like, you know, just
I think
relaxed, carefree. And if
no,
you're
no.
going to kick someone, you are neither relaxed nor carefree.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about people. People mix up happiness with oxytocin. You know, the dose of
Oh,
oxytocin
okay.
when they get
Yeah.
a like. You know, that's sort of a happiness is kind of a high,
Yeah.
when they've kicked somebody down on Twitter. You know, when they've stomped somebody to the ground on their favorite social media.
Oh yeah, I'm sure whoever got my channel taken down was like super excited and happy. I remember the first time my channel, I almost got it taken down. The two little
Bitches.
wonderful human beings that did it, they
Bitches.
had the balls to send me a condescending, smug email saying, well, maybe you'll learn this and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, huh, they're really proud of themselves, those little, and it's fine because I'm
I
telling
sent
you,
them a reply with saying, just wait till it's your turn to be eaten by people like
no,
you.
I don't really care because God already helped me out because they're both unattractive, so I win anyway.
On behalf of ugly people everywhere, I take offense at that statement.
Well, I'm sorry, but there is advantages to being pretty, and
I know there are advantages.
and it was just one of those, you know, so I'm not going to feel too bad because they're going to end up, eventually karma will get to them. Those two are going to be my age. One day they'll be my age because they're young, they're in their 20s, right? So they have youth on their side. But when they're my age, they're going to be bitter, alone, and if they're not alone, they're going to be with a man that doesn't
with
love
cats.
them.
Well, it's the
Cats.
belief
They will have cats.
which is going to make them alone and with cats.
So ultimately I win. Even when I lost my channel, I still win because tomorrow, okay, so tomorrow's a big family day. I have a full house. I have to get up really ass early in the morning to cook a big turkey. But I'm never alone, and they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you have it.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you hear people say that amongst the SJWs that they are afraid of other SJWs?
Yeah.
That's
Because they're
exactly,
not nice
yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my point. Is generation. So when I talk to the younger kids, is that me?
I think it's
No,
real.
that's Real Raven.
Okay. So when I talk to the kids, they're now frightened. As I stated, they're frightened to use the neopronouns. They will do everything in their power to, like, they don't do it openly so you can't see it, but they do everything to avoid that. They also do everything they can to avoid feminists. Like,
Real, I'm going to silence you, mate, because you did it yourself. Thank you. Go on.
no, I'm just saying is that they are creating their own destruction. So I guess we can't be too upset. I just don't want them to take down our countries at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want them in a last ditch attempt to bring about globalism going to force America to fight with France and Germany. I don't want to have it happen.
Well,
can we watch? I'll get the popcorn.
In all fairness, I know that the European Union, Macron, for example, have been talking about how they want a European army because of the huge powers in the world and America being the first to be named. But
that's what scares me.
Yeah, but at the same time, if the European Union actually would do something like that, I'm not sure if they would get away with it, because I don't think most civilians in Europe agree
to join that army.
Yeah,
but you know what? How about they just say that immigrants can join the army and then become nationalized through that? How's that as
No, it doesn't matter, because the whole point is that the European Union could not. It has no ability to organize and run anything.
Well, we say this, but we see it happen time and time again.
No. We see the European Union mandate things which are then done by the countries. But the European Union itself does nothing.
Well, I understand.
I hope that's true.
No, it's true. And if they wanted an army, they would actually have to organize it themselves, and they have no record of it. They are not capable.
But I understand Alicia being scared, maybe too big a word, but worried by it.
Can they not order one from Amazon?
Well, there you go. It's because I live in a warring country. They could hire mercenaries.
No, but as I say, it's not the soldiers that are the problem. They've got soldiers. It's the command structure and the logistics and the organization they don't have.
But they can do what all countries did in the past to create war. All they have to do is hire a bunch of shill Americans to come over, plant a couple of things.
No, as I say, it's the organization. It's the organization.
But how do you know they lack that organization?
Well, they lack it so far because they haven't been able to show that they have this.
They don't. The European Union is a command structure without any. It does nothing itself. They make decisions, and then they offload those decisions to the countries to do.
But at the same time, I understand Alicia's being worried about this because it's only one step.
Yeah,
it's only one step to take control over something. It's only one step. So I understand Alicia's worry for that.
No, but to take
I just
over
don't want to fight.
There is nothing to take over.
I don't know. That's all I know is that we look at how easily America was dragged into World War II.
Yeah. After 3 years,
but John, I mean, I know the command structure is a problem, but they could outsource stuff. Like they could say, "Oh, we have now people demonstrating in Hungary against our globalist plan, so let's get the German army in."
Oh yeah, I'm not disputing the efficacy of individual armies. I'm saying it will not be an EU army that will operate as an EU army.
But they can just put the label on it, can't they? And then they can allow...
because here's the thing, right? Someone was saying that they'd heard about problems within NATO. Lack of difficulties of communication, disagreements, and NATO's an alliance because you have national armies and they're all supposed to work together and come under a unified command. And the EU would be exactly the same. You'd have national armies.
No. What the European Union wants is not national armies under the EU control.
So if you are talking about one army, there is no structure. If you're talking about co-opting national armies, which is what the point Real Raver made, then you have the issue of coordination. So you have two distinct scenarios.
Yeah, but
so we can't talk about the two scenarios interchangeably. The one scenario is there is an EU army with its own command. There is no precedent for that. The EU has nothing of its own. Or you have a alliance of national armies, in which case you then have the issue of them working together. But there are two separate problems, and neither of which will actually support the idea of an EU army.
But the European Union itself wants a EU army.
Yeah, but who's going to organize it? Who's going to command it?
But that's the thing, and this is where I agree with Alicia. It's one decision away.
No, it's not a decision.
Yeah, it is.
It's not
because if they
decision, they have to actually be able to implement the decision.
If they get it through that the European Union is allowed to have its own army, then it's just a question of organizing it.
Yes, and that is what they can't do.
No.
They can legislate for it and then give it to the countries.
No, because it won't
they can
be
do it themselves. They can do it themselves, because if the countries vote in favor of it and say, okay, you can do it, then they have the right.
They can do it.
Yeah, they can.
How? Who?
By organizing it.
Who?
Listen, John, at this point in time, the European Union has several commissions on everything and everything.
Yeah, the decision-making bodies.
One moment. They started with one.
Yeah.
They have multiple now.
Yes, but they're a fundamentally different type of thing.
Organizing another wing, as you would like to call it, might not be easy.
No, it's not a different
impossible.
wing. Not a different wing. It's a fundamentally different nature of thing. Having coordinating committees making decisions, that's what they're good at.
It doesn't matter what they're good at.
It does matter. It matters fundamentally what they're good at.
And I'll tell you why it doesn't. Because they can change.
Okay, this is where we disagree, because there is no precedent for them, and there is no precedent for it. They have no substance upon which to found a change.
That there is no precedent for it means nothing, and that they have no substance means nothing either, because they are a legislative force, and they can legislate it into being.
No.
And once they've legislated it into being, money will become available, and they can start organizing it. Now, it might take
they?
The European Union.
No. This is my point. People talk about the theys and the thems and there actually has to be a functional body.
That functional body can but it can be created, Joe.
It's just a matter of deciding it first and then making that. What you're saying is that they'll never be able to make.
No, what I'm saying is it will never work. It will not. It is.
But I wouldn't like to have try it out and just legislate and see how they fail in case they don't. That's the whole point, you know. I think Modwain's right.
Adequate cohesion within Europe to sustain that.
It doesn't matter, John.
So what you're saying really is that the EU is going to fall apart before this comes to fruition, right?
I'm saying that any attempt to create a supernatural state will fail, yes.
But we don't know that.
Wait. Isn't the United States an example of that, when the South tried to leave the North, and the North came, like, Abraham Lincoln was ruthless.
No, that is not good enough.
That's fantasy.
The South, they built an army.
No, you had two blocks. You had two cohesive blocks. Did you not?
I don't think it was two cohesive blocks. No.
So you didn't have two sets of states, a confederate and a union.
That came out of nowhere. It came out of the fact that the North decided to do an unfair tax that would overly burden the South. It's the same thing as what's happening right now, where,
for example, with Poland and Hungary and Austria, which are being attacked by the European Union.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like the same.
That's my point, Modwain. Is that there is sufficient disunity within Europe.
John, I understand what you're saying, but I would really appreciate it if you also listen to what Alicia is saying, because what we're seeing happening now in Europe is not unlike what we saw happening in America.
No, it's very different.
I don't think it's different, because the only reason you guys are fracturing is based off of taxes and immigration, correct?
Correct.
And the only reason the South wanted to secede was based off of taxes and a type of immigration. They wanted to be able to keep slaves, you know, and I don't want to like conflate the two, because slavery is bad, but to the South, they didn't.
No,
the North,
okay.
Because the North, they would return the slaves to the South. So how anti-slavery was really the North when they would return the
Can I address
slaves?
this point, Alicia? Okay.
Yes.
You had a United States.
Yes.
You had a coherent identity. It
No,
fractured.
I don't.
No,
I
no,
don't
no, no,
think
no,
that.
No,
no, no,
you
no.
were a country.
Wait a
You're
minute. Wait a minute.
country.
Wait a minute. What
You're
about?
republic.
Wait. Think about it from this way. Okay, so the United States is states first,
Yes.
Yeah.
and I guarantee that everybody is more loyal to their state than they like. The United States itself is like kind of almost a second thought. So when I say I'm proud to be an American, really it's I'm proud to be a Utahn, because I can't stand Californians. No offense to any Californians watching, because I love some of you.
I don't like California's either.
I know, but it's like it's really hard.
The only good
I
ones are
think-
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
And maybe you guys are different than us, but I really feel like
You had a country.
No.
They
No.
had
John.
Modwain. They had a country, and that country fractured. You see, you go from country to fracture. Europe isn't a thing.
No, but even before Europe is a thing, America wasn't a thing either. Hell, look
It was
at
a country, for fuck's sake. They had a Declaration of Independence, and they had a state, and they had a federal government. I'm sorry,
It's
was a
a
thing.
country built up out of states, kind of like Germany is.
Until you say Germany
Okay.
is not a country.
No,
Each
one second. One second. Can we agree that Germany is a country built up out of states? Smaller states, but out of states still.
It's a federal government, just like the United States, yes.
Okay, Real Raven. Bavarians and
And
any other
Prussians.
group.
Well, we call them South Prussians, right?
So how much are they
Southpreisen.
how much are they the same Germans?
Not at all.
Thank you very much.
But do they
Well, there's a
identify
Bavarian
as
look-
Germans?
Let me elaborate before John shoots me down in flames. There is a.
I'm not going to
there
shoot
is-
you down. It's Modwain
there is
I'm
a-
angry at.
All right, okay. I don't mind. There is a Bavarian identity, definitely, and there is a river called the Danube. We call it the Weißwurst Equator. That's the equator of the white sausage. Like north of this border, no white sausages are eaten. That's a clear distinction. We also have another nice name for the northerners called the Muschelschubser. The mussel botherers, because they live near the sea, obviously, up north. And they call us Schluchtenkacker.
oh that
The
makes
ones that
sense.
shit
It's
into the
like,
valley.
yeah. It's like if I go to any other state, the first question is how many wives does my husband have? And it's not asked ironically either or rudely.
No, they actually mean it.
They actually mean it.
I've seen that. Someone else talked to me about that. Actually a year or 5 ago.
Yeah. I don't know how the United States is. I really think you guys are giving us too much credit. I really do.
Yeah,
I
Not
agree with
anymore.
you,
You've
John.
got so many debts already. You're not getting any more credit. Go to the Chinese for that.
No, but the problem is, and we see the same thing, and I'm agreeing with John that the European Union isn't there yet, but at the same time, the European Union elite is absolutely pushing for that, and that's why so many people are standing up. Hell, Angela Merkel has a problem in Germany, for example, in Bavaria, because they had enough of her.
Exactly, and you're proving my point. You're arguing my point.
No, because you're still in
the
power.
European Union will manage to become a cohesive whole, it will disintegrate and collapse in on itself.
Well, that's a
Which is
different
what happened
argument than you
in-
made, though.
No, that is the argument I made. It's not what you understood.
Okay, maybe.
But-
I think what you're arguing still is that the whole thing falls apart before they can pick enough speed to kind of execute that,
No,
And
I'm
that's-
saying they don't have the competence. There is no
They could get
inherent
it.
cohesion.
Yeah, but don't you agree that there's ways and means to get there? I'm not saying that it's possible. You said there's-
Not. We all know how incompetent governments are. don't we?
Well-
We all know how incompetent governments are. The thing with the EU is it makes decisions, and it only knows how to make decisions. It doesn't know how to achieve anything.
Well, all they have to do is create the right situation to launch it all. I know people don't like to believe in conspiracies, but
Well, we do. We love them. We love them.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is maybe they'll hire someone to be smart for them. What if they hire like
And
I don't
think
know.
they did manage to have a common currency, so that's one thing that they managed at least.
Oh, they've got a plan. I'm not disputing they've got a plan.
And
Well, I
that's
hope
the
you're
problem.
right, John. I'm
All
rooting
I'm-
for you
all
to
I'm
be
saying
right.
is
I don't want.
Wait,
I
guys,
don't
I'm going to go on
All right.
permanent mute again because I'm going to go back to bed. So I'll go back
All right.
to the
Good
chat,
night.
okay?
All I'm saying is we're
Well,
seeing
we'll
the
have-
tensions ripping the European Union apart as a result of the very effort to unite it. Do we
But
not?
a war with America could unite you guys.
No, it
War
won't.
unites people.
But
No.
yeah, they unite people who see each other as people.
In all fairness, if there were a European army at this point in time and the European Union would decide to go to war with America, it would collapse the European state. Because there are more anti-European Union voices out there than pro-European voices. The only problem is that the pro-European voices are the political elite. They're the ones in power. That's why they never expected a Brexit to happen. That's why they never expected Italy to be strongly anti-European. That's why they were surprised that, well, they weren't surprised that Macron won, but they were surprised that Macron only won by the hair on his teeth. And if France would have a presidential election now, it's very unclear whether Macron would even hold the base that he has. They never expected Austria to turn against it. They never expected Poland to turn against it. They never expected Hungary to turn against it. At this point in time, the European Union is very weak.
What I don't understand, why hasn't England been able to leave them? I don't understand why England has to negotiate with them at all. Why can't they just
No
be
one
like,
understands that. No one understands that. It doesn't make sense.
yeah, it's like, what is it, a big divorce? And
But even if it is,
kids, what?
at this point, I mean, negotiating an exit would be to say, okay, let's make it easier on each other to move out. But the European Union is condemning everything that Britain wants to do. So I don't understand why Britain doesn't simply say, you know what? We agreed that this would be the date that we would be out of the Union. Boom, we're out of the Union. Fuck it. We'll start from scratch.
Yeah.
If they would do that, they probably would win on the deal as well. But yeah, as Crusader says, May was a Remainer. She was in favor of Remain. But because the political powers that be basically left her in charge, and I'm not want to down talk on May too much. She's not doing a good job in my humble opinion, but yeah,
Guys,
it's not her fault she got in that position.
guys, do yourselves a favor and watch the Britisher. The week that was with Sargon, the Britisher, and one other guy discussing. They go through the whole Brexit deal in detail, and at the end, Sargon is just he's enraged. Basically, it's brilliant. There's so many things that are wrong. You have to see this. The week that was by the Britisher.
Yes, academic agent is a third person.
I'm sorry, what did you say, John?
Academic agent is the name of the third person.
Yeah. That was amazing.
Does anyone have the link to?
I'll put it in the chat once I figure out how to do that on my mobile phone.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I if somebody knows the link, that'd be great because I don't understand what's happening at all. Like it's like UN. So the United States, the UN, right? The Global Compact. Donald Trump said, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore." And okay, now we're not. And so it's like, I don't know. It feels like.
Strong.
I don't know. It's just weird to me.
Yeah,
Everything's weird to me now.
But it's not just weird to you.
Weak.
It's not just weird to you. No one seems to understand what the hell is going on. Hell,
it's all too complex, and that is actually the problem.
I'm not really sure if it's complex or if they're making it complex.
Well, I don't agree they're making it complex, because I don't think anybody has any control over anything.
Well, I disagree with you there. I mean, I made a video not too long ago on Rees-Mogg and what's his face, Guy Verhofstadt, talking about the issue of the North Irish border. And Rees-Mogg's basically, okay, do you want that to be a hard border? And then he's like, then Guy Verhofstadt is like, no, we don't want that. Well, good, says Rees-Mogg, because we don't want one either. So if we both agree on that, we're done. Yeah, but, says Guy Verhofstadt, there should be a hard border. But I'm not in favor of a hard border, says Rees-Mogg. Yeah, but there should be one. But if you're not in favor of one and I'm not in favor of one, why should there be one? The amount of double talk is it's difficult to follow. I mean, I made a video, and you can somewhere still in my list. You can still watch it.
They're not deliberately making it complicated. It's because they have it's because they have inconsistent positions. It's not that they're not saying, "Oh, we'll make it complicated." They have inconsistent positions that make it complicated.
Why do they have inconsistent positions?
Because they're idiots.
No, because they want to make it complicated.
No, again, you're ascribing motives to them.
I really am. Guy Verhofstadt, Juncker, Merkel, time and again have said we need to make the British pay. And whenever it seems to be that there is a solution to the whole Brexit debacle, the European Union is the one that says no. It's not the British that say no.
So the European Union's just being a dick. So basically, so they're butthurt because they're the jilted person. So now they want to make England suffer.
It's fear. It's fear. People behave violently or aggressively when they're fearful. And the European Union...
What are they afraid of? Oh, are they afraid that the European Union's going to
collapse? They're afraid that if Britain will open the floodgates to the disintegration of the enterprise.
And then they'll lose their cushy jobs?
Yep.
Will they lose their pensions too?
Probably not, because they've tucked that all away nice and safe in Swiss bank accounts, no doubt.
That's sad. Everything is tragic right now.
Yeah, but that's what tyrannical leaders do, don't they? They amass fortunes for themselves in offshore accounts.
True that.
And then they go to Brazil?
Or Argentina.
Yeah. There's nowhere to go anymore, though. Like, you would think that people would stop evil, because there's really nowhere left to go, and it's eventually...
Oh, no. That's not true. There are plenty of places you can still go. If you have the money, hell, you can go for example, you can buy a piece of Afghanistan.
You can buy Afghanistan?
No, a piece of, not whole.
Yeah, but don't you have to live under their rules?
Everywhere. Listen, it's just a price.
If I have a lot of money, and I come with a lot of people bearing arms... Whose rules am I going to live by?
Oh, so we made the mistake of being poor. So we need to get more money.
No, but the problem is that once you get overrun, and this is a very old story. I can't remember. It's part of the ancient Greek civilizations. The powerful do not have the moral obligation to protect and even abide the weak. So if I'm powerful and I come in a certain area, I do not have to abide by your laws because you're weak.
Yeah, that's like George Soros. Motherfucker is the most hated man on earth. and he's
But
safe
that's
as
the problem with money.
a bug.
But that's the problem with money, and money can do that, whether we like it or not. The fact is, money can do that. But they can't do that as easily in the Western world anymore, because...
Well, so you think.
Well, so I think. You're correct, because...
I don't know, Antifa's attacking people.
Yeah, no, Antifa's attacking people. What Amazon is forcing states to allow them to have huge tax breaks so that they will have their headquarters and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time a company does that, I actually laugh at them because so Amazon is going to be in New York, right? So they're getting this sweet deal, but it's a short-term sweet deal, and in the long run, they're going to be fucked over. So they're eventually going to get what they deserve. It's the same thing with Toys R Us. They got what they deserve. Now they're going out of business. Kmart, a lot of the big bad boys, they end up creating the very situation that ends up eating them alive. Like YouTube. YouTube is literally dying.
Is it?
And they created the situation. Yeah, Facebook is dying too.
Oh, yeah. But apparently only us boomers are still on Facebook.
Well, I stay on Facebook because I have friends or family. It's the only way to talk to family, really. It's fast.
Well, that's what I use it for. I use it for the messenger. I don't particularly post on it.
Oh, see, I only leave the messenger on my computer, but I will not have it on my phone. If it's on my phone, I immediately take it off because I just get bombarded by I don't know who the hell they are. Weird people that I don't even know.
Can't you block them on Messenger?
Yeah, that's what Devin said. But I was like, yeah, that's.
I'm not just asking. I'm not saying you should. This wasn't rhetorical. It's I literally don't know.
No, I want what I wish is that Google Plus would have been a little bit better because their idea was the best. The circles. Because think about how wonderful the circles are. So you have your circle of friends, and then you have a bigger. Yeah, it used to be like that. So you had a small circle of friends.
I've never done Google. Sorry.
Well, they're closing it down because nobody used it because it was so great, and because it was Google, and it was evil.
But it's the same thing, though. I mean, you could once on YouTube make response videos, which was a great feature. But then people actually used it, therefore it should be gone because then you could hear something that you didn't want to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
and it was
the things that I used to like about YouTube is that the response videos would actually be right up under the original video, but right above the comments. It was a great feature, and I hope that BitChute, if they could, I mean, I think that they're having problems with PayPal, but if BitChute could, I would like to see that feature come back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think the trouble is that we have ideologues that are running everything, and if they would just leave it alone and just let nature take its course, you know what I mean? And maybe that's what is wise about you Europeans, is you guys understand that if you let nature take its course, it'll eventually get to where it needs to be.
The problem with that, I agree with you. Eventually it will turn out in a certain way, whether it's for the best or not, but it will turn out in a certain way. The problem I have with that is at the cost of how much blood.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about right now. I'm worried about, with this move towards saying nationalism is bad, I'm worried about all the ramifications that it's going to cause. Seriously, the one thing that I really enjoyed in the 90s, growing up in the 90s, is that we genuinely did not have the same kind of hate that everybody has now. And we had reached a point of live and let live. And we were all proud to be American. Even the hippies, we all dressed up on the 4th of July and we were happy and excited. You know, we beat the Brits, those damn Brits.
Yeah, those evil people.
Those goddamn Brits.
And can I just say, you beat a bloody German because that was our king. He was a German.
I believe it. Why do you have a German king? Who the hell did that?
Because we didn't want Roman Catholicism. So whenever it was, we invited over the Dutch, William of Orange in 1688, something like that, who was the husband of Anne, who was a queen, and they were not good at procreating.
Oh.
And so in 1715 or thereabouts, we needed somebody, and we went over to Hanover in Germany and plucked up a young prince called George.
Oh, God.
And he never spoke any English. However, he did bring over Handel. And Handel's Messiah was written for George to be performed on the Thames in London. So something good came of it. And the second George, his son, also didn't speak English. And the third George was the one whom you guys kicked out because he was a twat. He was also mad.
Yeah.
There's a film, The Madness of King George. It's about George.
Oh, so that's what I need to do is I'm just going to build an army based off of my royal bloodline and take my country back.
And what's more, not only was George a German, but the army where the British sent to fight you were Germans.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel as good as beating the Brits, though.
Yeah, that's because we weren't good at land battles. It took another 30 years before Wellington developed the British Army in Portugal.
Yeah.
So the only reason we won, you guys, or the Germans, I guess, is because of France.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
they were pissed off because we kicked them out of Quebec.
Well, and what's funny about it though is that you feel that kind of allegiance to France, but then France killed the king that supported us. So I don't care about France anymore. Your heritage that helped us, you guys killed. So screw you, France. Trying to start a war with me.
Yeah, but everyone's history is all muddled. That's the point.
I know, that's what's beautiful about it. It is kind of a beautiful thing that it's all muddled together like that. That's why Hetalia is one of my favorite animes, because it really does portray each country as being muddled and mushed together in a weird sort of way. And America's the hero, of course. That's what we are.
That is deluded.
That's one of the funny things I find about the Dutch, for example. The Dutch have had 400 years of good friendship with Turkey. But Turkey isn't around for 400 years. About 300 years ago, it was the Ottoman Empire. And okay, the Dutch were good friends with the Ottoman Empire. But that's not something to be proud of.
It's so weird, but it's great.
Mm.
Yeah, especially if you're Bulgarian.
Yeah.
It's the poor Romanians that get the shaft all the time. Yeah. I think we decided that nationalism is a good thing and it shouldn't be treated as a dirty word, and we shouldn't let them allow for it to be treated like a dirty word.
Looking after your own interests and for yourself, whatever the name, is not a bad thing, as long as you don't go mental over it.
Yeah.
It's like everything else, you know.
Yeah, you got to be chill.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. That, you know what? That's what I'm going to name my political party. Don't be a dick.
Yeah,
I think herding cats would be better.
That's what we should that'll just be the motto. Just don't be a dick. Come on, chill.
Don't be a dick. Just chill.
Just chill.
Well,
chill out.
Didn't that used to be the motto of Google?
Well, no, it was don't be evil. Don't be evil. But they never. If someone says don't be evil, immediately it's like,
oh God, you're evil as fuck, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because you're going to that word. Yeah. You know, can't you? Okay, they could have been softer. Don't be hateful, but don't be evil. Okay, so everything else is fine as long as it's not truly evil. Oh, geez, how sad. That's fine. Google's gonna collapse in on itself, so it's pretty fun. I'm enjoying watching their collapse because they hired so many SJWs. It's so funny. It's grand. It's grand to see huge entities fall. I thought it was funny to watch Toys R Us fall, and I know everybody would think I'm a dick for that, but I remember when Toys R Us had a monopoly on the toy industry, and they were squeezing everybody. They would lawsuits left and right, just evil corporations. So when they fell, I was like, good, you deserve to fall.
Anywho, because we haven't been talking about nationalism for a while now.
We have. It's just in a different guise.
Well, it's just that we all agree with each other. There's no dissenting opinions to actually challenge anybody.
That's true.
So it has been a while since I had people with truly disagreeing voices, not disagreeing, voices that disagreed. Even though sometimes John and I, and sometimes Raven and I, so it's a hell, yeah.
It keeps me vital. It wakes me up to get a bit annoyed for no reason.
But
it's like I need a bit of passion.
Having said all of that, guys, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I really think it was a good one again. I'm really enjoying these. In all fairness, every once in a while I'm like, yeah, maybe I should stop doing the hangouts. It takes a lot of time, etc., etc. But I do enjoy them. I really do. So
yeah,
I mean, thank you all for coming.
Love-ins where everyone just agrees with each other are dull.
Yeah, no use for those. Anyway, anyone want to have any last words?
I just want to.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, there's a rather obscure New Zealand YouTuber called Hugin, Hugin. Check him out; he's great. And he and I might be streaming together at some point.
That's exciting.
As he's in New Zealand, the timing for Europeans might be a little off because they don't get up until quite late in our evening. America shouldn't be so bad, so we might be streaming around this sort of time, depending upon when we can negotiate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, he's someone I've followed for a long time, and I keep trying to encourage people to check him out because he does some great stuff. Very oddball, and being a Kiwi, he covers different things than the rest of the world.
New Zealand is Kiwis New Zealand, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Everybody check out Cocoscope. That's where I'm going to be investing my energy.
Cocoscope, I can really... Rin discovered it, and I can really push it. Not that they're probably not really looking for me to push them, but yeah, they're really worth it. So... And
yeah, let's watch YouTube crumble.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Rin?
I said I'm glad I found it for you, Modwain. You really like it.
Yeah, I really do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like me and Alcia, we did a hangout, and I was saying that there is Russian Facebook. It would automatically come in your native language. Like for me, it automatically came in English. It's called vk.com. It's like Facebook, but there is no hate speech. There is no hate speech. You just can't criticize Putin or the Russian government, but you can say anything you want. And it'll be nearly impossible to lose your account.
Sweet, because I love Putin. I love Putin.
Do you know what that sounds like? A euphemism.
No, I find him oddly attractive, and I can't figure out why.
It's those shots on horseback without shirt.
Power. Simple enough. It's power.
I mean, he's very photogenic.
No, I think it's his. I think it's his bone structure that I like for some reason. Have you ever just looked at a man and just been like,
can be very, not talking about men, but Russian women can be absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
Sorry.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Alicia. You know, Putin, he is very photogenic. I mean, it's like I've never seen a bad photo of him.
Yeah, he's got this great jawline. It like he carries himself really well. I don't maybe it is power, but I don't find Donald Trump attractive, so I don't think it's power.
He's
So
70
I
odd.
reject that.
I should hope not.
No, I've dated really older guys.
No,
like
I
way
mean,
older.
when he was younger, you looked at Trump and you thought, what a strange-looking guy.
Yeah, no,
Well,
he's never ever been attractive.
in all fairness, the captain made a good point. Putin does have that 007 thing going on.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we start all over again, Captain, if you want to join us next time, you are more than welcome. I'm not quite sure what our topic next time will be, but we usually start about 2 hours before now. And usually we stop now. So nice segue into me stopping. They say it is late. And I'd like to thank you all for coming. Anir Tak, if you want to join in a live stream one day, let us know. You're more than welcome. Obviously, the same goes for everyone else. I just invited the captain. I'm so glad that the captain is back. I missed his videos. He made a new one earlier this week. It's great.
Can I just volunteer on your behalf to Anir Tak, because it'll be early in the morning over there. She doesn't have to start straight at the beginning. She can join partway through if that's more suitable.
By the way, Alicia, do you still use Twitter? I hardly see you on Twitter anymore.
Oh yes, I'm on Twitter, but I haven't been posting because I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year. And so I've been in double lockdown mode. Also, I had the baby for 7 days because Devin had to go over to Korea. And yeah.
So if I send a tweet to you, you'll still be able to see it, right?
Correct. Yes, I will.
Okay, I'm going to tweet to you. And by the way, after the show.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Anyway, I don't see a response coming from Anir Tak, so I'm sorry, John, you have to fix that outside of the stream.
No, I was just saying that you invited her on the stream, and I was saying you didn't have to worry about being on at the start, was all I was trying to say.
Okay. Alicia, I assume you're talking to Anir Tak, so if you want, you can point her towards the Modwain's House of Fun Twitter group. And having said all these things, I am really going to say thank you all for coming, and I hope to see you all next time.